Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call the Missoula City Council meeting of September 19th, 2016 to order. If you'd please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please let the record note that with the exception of Mr. Hess, all council members are present this evening. We have minutes from the meeting of September 19th. Without objection, they'll be approved. Seeing none, we'll move on to our schedule of committee meetings. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks. Let's see here. We only have 3 committee meetings this coming Wednesday, the 21st of September. Public Safety and Health will start out the day at 9 o'clock until 9:30. Administration and Finance will follow from 9:35 to 9:50. And Committee of the Whole will round out the day from 9:55 to 10:35. And all of those meetings are being held right here in the council chambers at 140 West Pine. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Any changes to that schedule this week? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public comment portion of our agenda. This is your opportunity to comment on items not elsewhere on the agenda this evening. Mr. Grimm.
Greetings, I'm Doug Grimm, and I'm on the leadership team of the Upper Rattlesnake Neighborhood Council. And when we meet in here on the last Thursdays of the month, I kind of give a report on what the Upper Rattlesnake is up to. I always mention that the Upper Rattlesnake is Missoula's best neighborhood, because when you look at the Sunday paper every week on page 2, for years you'll notice that there's a listing of where all the crime has taken place in the city, according to the police department. Well, you just don't see any streets listed in the Rattlesnake, or maybe one a month. And I'm really proud of that. But the last, what's happened here in the country the last few days has really bothered me a lot, and I thought I would say something, because I see you people have almost all, except for one, voted to allow immigrants to come in at a rate of 100 or 150 a year. And now I'm listening to the news and hearing that some of these people that are coming in, they're coming in and they are using fake names, and we're just discovering that now in the last few days when we start comparing their fingerprints. See, some of these people came in and they really didn't have any documentation, and now that we're just tracking them by their fingerprints and with old fingerprints from where they came from, we're realizing that there may be 800 people in this country that are here with using names that are really not theirs. And I'm just thinking, wow, I had an association with a fellow, this is a sophomore in college, Zia Musavi, and I talked about him a few months ago here. And during the school year, he managed to probably damage and destroy maybe $1 million worth of property here. Tried to burn off the top floor of the art building with solvent all over the floors several days after school was out in the summer. And he also would just burn people's cars, professors at the university, if he didn't get the grade he thought he deserved. And I never realized exactly what he was up to, although I had a hard time communicating with him because he didn't speak English very well, and I didn't understand him very well, and he didn't talk very much. But evidently, since we were both art students, he felt that I ended up being his best friend. And when he set Jim Leedy's car on fire in front of his house over the base of Mount Sentinel, about the last day of school, or a couple of days after the last day of school, someone saw this student that they had finally recognized as the Iranian, or as he said, he was a Persian, running back toward campus. And they went to his house and picked him up. And
so we're at 3 minutes, Mr. Grimm, and you've told this story before, so I'm going to ask you to wrap it up for me.
So I'm kind of worried, and I'd be interested to see if in 30 years your decision to let people in from all over the country or all over the world was really a really wise decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else with general public comment this evening? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Good evening. My name is Ann Nelson. I live in Missoula, Montana. Nearly 2 years ago, I volunteered to help my community, and I was elected co-chair of the Captain John Mullen leadership team. I know there is a lot of conversation around our upcoming general meeting, and I would like to clarify the three main issues. It is my hope that by coming here tonight, we can work through these items together. Issue number one. I worked for nearly a year putting together the material to use for the proposal to calm traffic on England Boulevard. I am the co-chair that attended all the meetings and made all the presentations to the various committees. My co-chair attended one committee meeting and a few of our leadership team meetings. Yet when it came time to decide which engineering firm would get the contract, the city engineer chose to work with my co-chair and to exclude me from all conversations around the design of pedestrian safety. I have been kept absolutely isolated from any discussion around this project. So question, and it's aimed at the women on the panel, would any of you gals accept this? I don't think so. Second issue, the bylaws of the Captain John Mullen leadership team mandate that we, the team, design the agenda for our meetings. And as you know, that is not what is currently going on. So I'm here tonight to ask for the City Council's help in helping me to get this agenda issue resolved. The axiom in business is that bylaws are created for the express purpose of being able to run a meeting where all participants are treated fairly and equally. Last year, for the first time, our community voted to use their SID money on England Boulevard for traffic calming. My fear is tonight that the effort to take over the agenda, the denial of any information to me about what the resolution has been, indicates that there will be an attempt to override last year's election. I'm sorry, I can't help but feel that way. And finally, I know there is a lot of gossip and storytelling out there about me, my motives, past events in my personal life, which has been rich and full of interesting experiences. But before you make any decisions, you should have the opportunity to ask me questions about the stories you've heard. It is wrong for you or anyone to act as judge, jury, and executioner based on gossip from the quilter circle or from any third or fourth party who may or may not know the actual facts of any story. I am willing to meet with any of you so that you can ask questions and have the full story. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Anyone else this evening with general public comment? Mr. McMillan.
Mark McMillan, Ward 6. No new topic here. Before you guys vote next week on the gun ordinance, I'd like to suggest you look into the Oregon pastor who earlier this year spent $3,000 in discretionary funds to hopefully win an AR-15 in a raffle. He did win it, and then he claimed he gave it to someone to keep in a safe, and I think he gave that statement to a newspaper. A complaint was made that he broke Oregon state law and transferred the gun without a background check. The ordinance you're about to vote on is essentially the same as Oregon law. In this case, he was not charged because he chose not to give a statement to police, and nobody came forth with the name of the transferee. The case was closed because there wasn't enough evidence to prove that a crime actually occurred. I've been given the impression that the local ordinance will be complaint-driven. It sounds like if questioned on an alleged gun transfer, the transferor chooses not to give a statement and nobody has the name of the transferee, there would not be sufficient evidence to prove or disprove that a crime occurred. The ordinance, as many have stated over the last year, is not enforceable. From KLH News, Helena, September 15, 2015. Relatively few of those who committed homicide had significant criminal histories, but in the majority of the incidents, friends, family, or co-workers knew about ongoing violence but did not intervene. The Montana Suicide Prevention Coordinator, Carl Roston, February 7, 2016 interview, when asked what has changed and why does Montana have a suicide rate nearly twice the national average? Gun access hasn't changed, it's stayed the same. His reply was probably the biggest reason is socioeconomic. We have about 150,000 people in our state that don't have access to any type of health care, which is a major issue. We have a lot of people living in poverty. Wages are not going up at the same pace as rising health costs, rising cost of living, and inflation. This ordinance could cost the taxpayers of Missoula hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend in court. You'll be giving taxpayer dollars to lawyers to defend an unenforceable law. This money would be much better spent if given to those who could use it to fund the escape from a violent relationship or get over the last monetary hurdle to escape poverty. I've been thinking back over the last year at how much time and money the council and the citizens have spent on this and what they're going to spend here next week. A year ago, Mr. Nugent said that this was a gray area. If you pass this, you are willingly using more resources to legally defend an unenforceable and easily skirted law. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Any other general public comment this evening? Sir?
I'll be brief. This is just an event announcement. We're organizing the third Civic Hackathon, and it's this Saturday.
And your name, sir?
I'm
for the
sorry,
record?
I didn't have a person. William Halliburton, and I live in Missoula.
Thank you.
It's going to be at the Payne Center, starting at 9 o'clock, and it's in support of Standing Rock. So it's going to be an interesting day. So if you're interested in kind of figuring out what we've been working on for the last 3 months since the last one. Last one was about electronic recycling. Maybe you saw some of the paper. Okay, that's all I have to say. Hopefully I'll see one of you there someday.
Thank you, sir.
Saturday.
Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Moore, and I live in Missoula also. I've been away a while, come back to learn that we're going to give $3 million to Peter Lambros and some of his other partners to own a parking floor for the housing project. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, I drove through the, I think it's called Park Place, parking garage, and it was, I didn't count it exactly, but it may have been maybe 20% full. 1 block away, we're going to add 150 spaces, one block away, in an unused parking lot. I also drove through the other parking lot, and it was, I'm estimating, 50, 60% full. So that brings me to the letter to the editor. Probably thinks like I do. Let's see if I have this right. The managers of Missoula Fresh Market have to leave their store to help students from Meadow Hill Middle School safely deal with Reserve Street traffic. Not too many blocks away, C.S. Porter Middle School, kids rely on a push-button gadget that looks like it could have been bought at Ace Hardware for about $79 to get them across Reserve Street. And we all heard the dire need to have that bridge across Reserve. Then it says, but bicyclists heading for Lolo need a $5 million overpass. That's how we're spending our money. The other thing, I want to make a complaint and a request. Several months ago, I went to get a form. It's called a Request for Public Records Form. I was told I could only have one. I went there this morning. I was told the same thing again. I could only have one. I have a need for several. And they said, well, you can type it on the back or attach it some way to this one. That won't work. Several different subjects I want to get copies of. So my request is somebody provide City of Missoula request for public records form. I requested a dozen this afternoon, and that's what I still request from the mayor or somebody. Thank you.
We'll take care of that for you, Mr. Moore.
I hope you do.
Anyone else with general public comment this evening on items not elsewhere on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Swaney, and I'm a resident of Missoula. I am here this evening for the proclamation, but I also wanted to extend an invitation to all of the city council members. I am a student at the university as well as a staff person. Throughout the week, we have several events planned to recognize American Indian Heritage Day. So I do have the list, and I can just leave that with you. So there's something going on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And also, Councilwoman Marler is one of our guests who will be doing native plant tours. So I just thank you for your reading the proclamation tonight, and share this with.
Actually, we'll have, if Ms. Rabine can have that, we'll just circulate it to council members.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other general public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Items on that agenda were approved unanimously in council committees, and we save a little time on Mondays by considering these items all at once. Ms. Rabine will read the list of consent agenda items aloud so those in the audience and those at home will know what we're considering, and we'll take comment on those items before we vote. Ms. Rabine.
Thanks. And it looks like tonight's consent agenda has 11 items. The first is to approve claims in the amount of $1,025,961.99 for checks that are dated September 20th, 2016. Number 2 is the first reading and preliminary adoption on an ordinance amending Chapter 8.64 of Missoula Municipal Code entitled the Missoula Outdoor Lighting Ordinance, Section 8.64.030, 8.64.060, and 8.64.150 to revise regulations for the exterior lighting of a building and to set a public hearing on that matter for October 3, 2016. Easy for me to say. Number 3 is to set a public hearing on October 3rd on a resolution amending the annual appropriations of the City of Missoula, Montana, as set forth in the fiscal year 2017 budget and capital improvement program that increases the total city budget by $60,000 for the Assistance Firefighter Grant Award. And number 4 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign an administrative services agreement with Allegiance Benefit Plan Management for fees in the amount of $17.50 per month per plan participant for a period that begins on July 1st of 2016 and ends on June 30th of 2017 and continues thereafter for a maximum of 3 additional 12-month periods. That's an agreement for employee benefits administration. Number 5 is to approve and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Missoula Cultural Council, doing business as Arts Missoula, to fund various arts and cultural programs from July 1, 2016 through June 30th of 2019, the amount of $116,000 each fiscal year of the duration of the contract. Number 6 is to authorize the use of Front Street Urban Renewal District tax increment financing funds to purchase approximately 150 public parking spaces to be built with the East Front Student Housing Project to be owned and managed by the Missoula Parking Commission. Number 7 is to set a joint Board of County Commissioners and City Council public hearing for October 3rd, 2016 on a resolution to authorize the expenditure of up to $575,000 of the city's portion of the 2006 open space bond funds to purchase in fee approximately 83 acres of land in the South Hills and pay transaction and project related costs associated with the acquisition, including costs of initial cleanup and weed control. Number 8 is to grant a 10-foot wide underground fiber optic line easement to Missoula County Public Schools, Playfair Park. Number 9, and there's a second part, is to grant a 10-foot wide underground fiber optic easement to Missoula County Public Schools at Honeysuckle Park. Number 9 is to authorize the mayor to sign a contract with Pierce Manufacturing in the amount of $948,982 for purchase of 2 Type 1 fire engines. Number 10 is to confirm police officers Megan Biltney, Alexis Berger, and John Griffith. Number 11 is to appoint Michael Kapitsky and Dudley Imprada to the Local Emergency Planning Committee for terms that begin July 1st of 2016 and end on June 30th of 2018.
Thank you, Ms. Rabine. Chief Brady, would you like to tell us a little bit about the officers we're confirming this evening? I see they had to wear uniforms and you didn't, huh?
Yes, sir. Mike Brady, Chief of Police. Thanks for having us here tonight. I have 3 officers who have completed their first year of service with the Missoula Police Department. They have completed the basic academy requirements, and they have also completed the field training program and have passed all their certifications that are required. We have Officer Megan Bilbrey. She was born and raised in Napa, California. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice from Sacramento State. She attended the Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Training Center in 2013, and she worked as a police officer in Tucson, Arizona for 3 years before coming to Missoula. Then we have John Griffith. John is from Lake Chelan, Washington. He moved to Missoula in 2009, received his bachelor's degree in sociology criminology from the university in 2012. In 2014, he started working at the Missoula Police Department as one of our community service specialists. He was able to apply and be hired as a sworn officer a year ago. And Alexis Berger grew up in Wisconsin with 3 sisters. He's attended St. Cloud State University, earning a bachelor's degree in anthropology. He had minors in French and forensic science in 2006. In 2013, he started working at the police department as a desk person while completing his master's degree in forensic anthropology at the University of Montana in 2014. I bring all 3 of them forward to you for confirmation tonight.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Folks, if you will remain standing, anyone in the audience care to comment on any of the items on the consent agenda this evening? All right. Seeing none, questions or comments from council members? Mr. Walls? Yes. With that, we'll have a roll call vote on questions 1 and 3 through 11.
On the consent agenda, Armstrong. Armstrong votes yes. Bentley. Bentley votes yes. Cares. Cares votes yes. Dabari. Dabari votes yes. Hedl. Hedl votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marler. Marler votes yes. Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. Wells. Wells votes yes. West. West votes yes. And Wilkins. Wilkins votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 11 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, officers. And on question number 2, Ms. Ravine.
That's on the lighting ordinance. Bentley. Bentley votes yes. Cares. Cares votes yes. Dabari. Dabari votes yes. Hedl. Hedl votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marler. Marler votes yes. Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. Wells. Wells votes no. West. West votes yes. Wilkins. Wilkins votes yes. And Armstrong. Armstrong votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 10 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 absent.
And that question is approved as well. We will move on to comments from city staff, agencies, boards, commissions, authorities, and the community forum. I'm unaware of any of those this evening. We do have a special presentation in the form of a proclamation, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, whereas tribal peoples originally inhabited the area now known as the state of Montana, and whereas numerous American Indian tribes constitute the largest minority group in the state of Montana, and whereas Missoula was the homeland of the Salish and Kootenai tribes, And whereas tribal peoples celebrate their commitment to respect and preserve the rich American Indian traditions and cultures, and whereas American Indian Heritage Day is recognized as a day of commemoration of the heritage, history, and contributions of American Indians, and whereas the 2009 Montana legislature passed a law recognizing the last Friday of every September as American Indian Heritage Day, now therefore I, John Engen, Mayor of the City of Missoula and the State of Montana, do hereby proclaim Friday, September 23rd, 2016, as American Indian Heritage Day in Missoula, and encourage citizens of Missoula to commemorate this day with appropriate programs and activities and to learn more about the rich heritage of American Indian tribes. And Ruth, thank you again for being here this evening, and we look forward to celebrating with you. And would you like to share anything?
Yeah.
You want to just take the proclamation?
I want to take the proclamation.
It's free this evening. Thank you. Nice to see you. Thanks again. And with that, we'll move on to communications from the mayor. I will pass this evening. We'll begin general comments from council members with Ms. Marler and Ms. Hedall, Mr. Von Lossberg, Ms. Bentley, Ms. Cares, Ms. West, Mr. Wilkins.
I want to just thank the people all the people that are involved in our open space. I can now sit on my back patio and I'll be able to look up at Stone Mountain, and I won't see houses all the way to the top. And I think that's important. So that all is beginning to be open space. It's all going to be connected to each other. There ought to be good trails up there someday. And I think the people that handle that open space for us, they've done a good job. They've really made that money stretch. And there's still a little left.
Ms. Armstrong, Mr. Barton, Ms. Jones, and Mr. Wells. With that, we will move on to committee reports. Those items were not approved unanimously in council committees. The chairperson of that committee will make a motion reflecting the committee's action, and we'll invite a comment on those items. And provided I can turn a page and still see. We have a committee report this evening, ladies and gentlemen, happening in land use and planning. Ms. Bentley.
Okay, I'm going to make all three motions.
Please.
Adopt an ordinance to amend Title 20 City Zoning Tourist Home Development Standards, draft dated 9/14/16, as amended by the Land Use Planning Committee, and schedule second and final reading on October 3rd, 2016. Set a public hearing on October 3rd, 2016 on a resolution to establish the initial registration fee for tourist homes of $50 for each home and an annual renewal fee of $25 for each home. Direct Development Services staff to develop public information about the tourist home program that includes advertising tourist homeowners of the importance of maintaining proper insurance, registration, renewal, and advertising requirements for tourist homeowners, and providing a monthly online registry of tourist homes.
And those motions are in order. Discussion on the motions. Mr. Wilkins?
So the motion, the main motion there is to set a public hearing on October 3rd. I just want to remind people in single-family neighborhoods, think about one of these next to you, and maybe no control. Yeah, it's three strikes and they're out. But I've seen the police department where they go in when they get a bad address and go check it out. They generally give them 3 chances. And I don't blame them. I would too, because I think you always should talk to somebody first before you lower the hammer. So, and give them a couple chances. But if that's the case with these tourist homes, well, you're going to have at least 9 complaints maybe before you ever hear anything, or it gets registered with the city and whoever handles it, which I guess would be code enforcement. So I really want the public meeting to be there, but I want people to come and talk about it if they really are going to accept it. That's Kalispell. They took it away from single-family homes. So I don't know. That would be my goal.
Further discussion on motions to set public hearing. I have Mr. DeBari and Mr. Von Lossberg. Ms. Bentley?
So the first thing I would like to say is I wanted to thank everyone on the committee for their hard work and their thought in working through this ordinance over many months. I also want to thank members of the public who wrote in or came and testified to help inform this ordinance. I think we reached a spot last time in committee where people felt comfortable and felt like the interests of the neighborhoods and those people who are currently operating tourist homes have their interests balanced well with those of the community, and I'm looking forward to supporting the motion.
Mr. Von Lossberg?
Thanks. I was just going to clarify before my comments that the October 3rd public hearing is about the fees for the initial registration, and we already had a public hearing on the main motion here, so I just wanted to clarify that relative to any confusion. I was one of the co-sponsors of this ordinance with John. This has been a really tough issue to work through. I think everyone on council appreciates that, and I want to thank everybody for the time that they put into it. It's been controversial. It is controversial, and there's been a lot of good input from virtually everybody on the council. That said, I think we all also recognize that it's not a perfect, it's likely to not be a perfect ordinance, and it's not a perfect situation, and this I'm comfortable supporting because I think it's a reasonable first attempt, and I'm sure there'll be tweaks over time to deal with this issue. To put our heads in the sand and pretend that this isn't affecting our community already is to ignore reality, and that's really the main impetus behind my interest in trying to work on this issue and kind of bring it into the light. There are certainly bad actors out there relative to tourist homes. We know that. I'm hopeful that under the ordinance we'll be able to more effectively actually deal with those situations that have been dealt with before. And I'm also interested in bringing this into the light because this is an activity that many citizens in the community pursue for a variety of reasons, and I'll mention just one. We are a university town. There are people that rent homes out for long durations, the academic year, and then do short-term rentals, during the summer or some of those other months. And under our current zoning, which really doesn't comprehend this kind of activity, those activities are illegal, and clearly a number of those serve a very important purpose in the community. So I won't go on and on. I think it's a good compromise. I'm confident we'll tweak it over time, and I'm thankful to everybody. I'm particularly thankful to John for all the work that he's put into it. So,
Ms. Bentley?
Thanks. I'm going to vote for everything tonight. I don't support having the registry with the addresses published online. I think it's an invasion of privacy and overkill that could backfire in a bad way. It's not a way we deal with other things in the city, and it sets a bad precedent. But I'm going to support it tonight because we're just moving things along. So I'll be voting for it, everything.
Mr. Wilkins?
Well, I'd like to split this up a little bit. I'd like the public hearing to be separate from the other two, since the other two were already okayed in a public hearing.
We can certainly divide the question for you this evening.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. Ms. Jones?
So I'm going to support the motions tonight. I've looked at this as I've brought myself up to speed on this issue and heard from many constituents. I've looked at it from the point of view of balancing the needs that we have, but trying to do the best that we can to maintain our neighborhoods. And I understand Mr. Wilkins' position, but I think we need a more proactive position so that we can ultimately work with the situation instead of having it control us. And I'm really looking at this ordinance as a work in progress. I'm curious a year from now to see how many have registered versus how many are advertising. And I would, based on what's happening at that point, if we are not getting enough registrations, I think we need to look at penalties and things like that, because as my husband says to our children, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. I think we're starting off the easy way here. And I'm hoping that people do the right thing. There's registration. If not, then we'll take the next step and seeing how many complaints are out there and seeing to what degree different neighborhoods are impacted and how it's affecting our housing supply. So I'm looking at this as the first step. And I think as we looked at so many ordinances from across America, that's what every other community is doing too. They're trying to figure out how to work with this situation based on each city's culture. So I'm in favor of it tonight with reservations.
Further discussion? Mr. DeBoer?
In my thinking of people, I failed to thank Mr. Zavitz and Development Services for all their help and diligent work on this.
Further discussion? Anyone in the audience care to comment on any of the questions? Yes, sir. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thank you. Let me speak. So in 2013, a local landlord bought a house that sits 25 feet from my family's.
So, Michael, would you please identify yourself for the record?
Oh, my name's Michael Fitzgerald.
Thank you.
I live in Ward 3. The house wasn't on the market and had never been a rental before, but they had reached out to the existing owner because of its unique potential to be a short-term rental. It's close to town. It's small. I asked them not to, but within days of closing, it was on Airbnb and various short-term rental sites. They told me they were going to do whatever they wanted. My only recourse, and I was thrilled to find out I had recourse, was to call the city and show them the ads, and this worked. The landlord had to change the ad because it was illegal. The landlord was upset. If they can't advertise, then renting is a challenge. They now mostly rent it for 2 to 4 month intervals, and are definitely upset with me. This new ordinance that you're putting forward enables commercial parties like this to create motels and disables families from having to live next to one. Once this is done, anyone can buy any house and turn it into a motel, effectively devastating a street and eventually whole neighborhoods. This has been well documented in places like Silver Lake and Portland. We didn't buy our house, and I don't think most do, because we were hoping to live next to a revolving door of strangers. I bought it because there were parks, great schools, and other families who I could raise my children alongside of. I bought it because of the existing wonderful fabric of the neighborhood. I have 2 kids who used to play outside pretty freely. Once this ordinance is made law, we'll have to think about who is living next door every time they go outside, every time we leave for a day or a weekend, every time we have dinner in our backyard. Even with being able to enforce the 30-day minimum, I still had 3 to 5 new neighbors per year, a ceaselessly barking chihuahua, chain-smoking, constantly coughing woman who's forced outside because they can't smoke in the rental like a hotel, people peering into our patio out of curiosity. With this new ordinance, we'll now have potentially hundreds of new neighbors per year, and my family's only recourse will be to have to catch them 3 times in a criminal act over the course of within a 12-month span. It's just absurd. It's also well documented that the rental market in Missoula is already pretty brutal. According to the Missoula Housing Report, the price of rentals jumped 8% last year. That's 800 times more than the increased rate of inflation, and not even comparable to our wage increase because there really wasn't one. In New York, it's well documented that neighbors that allow landlords to turn apartments into motels have seen a 2.3% increase over neighborhoods that haven't. So that would put our rental would go from, instead of 8% to 10.3%. But I should also add that New York City banished its families to suburbs decades ago. Places which actually have struggling families have dealt with an even more dramatic rental price increase. To end, I would just like to ask the council to reconsider. If you empower commercial landlords by removing the 30-day minimum on non-primary homes, you're ruining our homes. You're creating constant anxiety for parents. You're stopping kids from playing freely in their neighborhoods. You're pitting neighbors against neighbors who decide they want to make a little extra money at the cost of the neighborhood. Rents will continue to dramatically outpace local wages and inflation. But ultimately, you'll be handing over something pretty amazing, our neighborhoods, to a few so they can capitalize on what your constituents have made. I hope this isn't why you joined the City Council. Personally, my only recourse, if you do this, is to sue, and I hate lawyers, or to become a very bad neighbor so that they get poor reviews on Airbnb. I'd rather not do either. Additionally, it's my impression that we're concerned about where all these tourists are going to sleep, and I'm pretty sure we just added 154 rooms downtown. I hope you'll reconsider. Thank you for your time.
Excuse me. Thank you, sir. Anyone else this evening? Yes, sir.
My name's Jeffrey James Halverson. I no longer live in the city of Missoula. I owned a duplex in Missoula before. I moved out into the country because I didn't want to have neighbors. And actually, I love people. I'm the ambassador for Couchsurfing program, and there's 3 million members worldwide, and there's a lot of members that live in Missoula. So today I come to speak for them. The Couchsurfing program is letting people come to stay at your home for free. And a lot of these people have an online profile, and they have references, and which is very similar to Airbnb customers, my understanding is too. The difference is, what is the difference between letting people stay free in your home and letting somebody stay at a cost to your home? I'd like to say my opinion is different than the last speaker. I welcome strangers to my home. They're not strangers because I get to know them, and I don't look at them as possibly weird people or anything like that. I look at it as
he gets to talk, Mr. Fitzgerald.
The possibility is some of these people could be your new best friends, and that's what a neighborhood is making friends with your neighbors. As a landlord, when I lived in Missoula before, I found that it was nearly impossible to fill a home once the renters moved out in the middle of the winter. The students come and they rent only in September, and then they leave in June, and then it's almost impossible to rent during the summer until the students come back, and then all of a sudden it's a huge surge and everything rents. So as a landlord, I found that sometimes if I was stuck with a rental, it would be stuck empty through the winter time all the way till the students either got out of school and maybe rented a place for the next year, or all the way till the end of the summer. So Airbnb, I think, is a definite way for people to advertise their place. Like I said, I let people stay for free. When it comes to letting people stay for free, I was sued by Missoula County Health Department.
Yeah, so we're starting to get a little far afield here, Mr. Halverson, so okay. I'll ask you to wrap it up.
One thing I wanted to say is that sometimes what people are renting for does not even cover the cost of what a home is to the interest. A $200,000 home is $1,000 in interest per month, $300 in property taxes, and $400 a month in utilities, and that's $1,700 a month. So renting it for 4 weekends a month for 8 days at $200 a night is still $1,600 and still doesn't cover wear and tear. So sometimes you have to look at it as recouping losses and not necessarily making money or as a huge profit maker, and that's money that people can spend in the local economy. I will note before that the city once tried to force landlords to buy business permits, city business licenses, and to my understanding, they were forced to return all those monies before, as they weren't business licenses. So you might want to take a look back at that and see if that applies, or if that ruling somehow applied to anything else.
And that's 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's see. We go once around, Mike. Okay, that's your pen. Good. Yes, sir.
My name's Tom Winter, and I have a vacation home, I guess, but I live there. And just like when I'm at home with my parents and Thanksgiving out of state or something, I rent it out. And I just want to thank you guys for approaching this in kind of a sensible way and not starting with too much regulation, but not letting it be a free-for-all. And I really appreciate the cogent and smart conversations I've heard throughout this. I've been out of town working, and I was actually able to rent my place out, which allowed me to afford my mortgage while I was gone. I don't think of myself as a commercial renter. I've asked all my neighbors if it was kosher, and they all feel very comfortable. I just obviously have no prepared remarks, but I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to do this, because it would mean that some of us sometimes can't afford our houses, and a lot of us work seasonally, especially in Missoula, where we're tied to the seasons or tied to the semester calendar. The flexibility you've built into the system so far allows us to continue to do that in a way that I think will keep the neighborhood safe and keep the fabric going. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else this evening? All right, with that, barring further discussion, we'll take these questions one at a time, Ms. Rabine.
Okay, so are we doing the ordinance, then the resolution, and then the third direction to staff? Or are we doing the ordinance, direction to staff, and then the resolution?
We'll do the ordinance, we'll do the resolution, and we'll do the direction.
Okay.
please.
All right, on the motion to adopt the ordinance on first reading and to schedule second reading on October 3rd. Start roll here with Cares.
No.
Cares votes no. DeBari. Yes. DeBari votes yes. Heddle. Yes. Heddle votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marler. Marler votes yes. Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. Wells. Wells votes no. West. West votes yes. Wilkins. Wilkins votes no. Armstrong. Armstrong votes yes. And Bentley. Bentley votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 8 ayes, 3 nays, and 1 absent.
And the motion is approved. Ms. Rabine?
Okay, this is to set a public hearing on October 3rd on the resolution to establish the initial registration fee of $50 and an annual renewal of $25. And we'll start roll here with DeBari. DeBari votes yes. Heddle. Heddle votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marler. Marler votes yes. Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. Wells. Wells votes no. West. West votes yes. Wilkins. Wilkins votes yes. Armstrong. Armstrong votes yes. Bentley. Bentley votes yes. And Cares. Cares votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? That is 10 ayes and 1 nay and 1 absent. And finally, this is the final motion is to direct Development Services staff to develop the public information, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm stalling so I can get the motion entered in my software. And we'll start this round of voting with, looks like Heddle. Heddle votes yes. Jones. Jones votes yes. Marler. Marler votes yes. Von Lossberg. Von Lossberg votes yes. Wells. Wells votes yes. West. West votes yes. Wilkins. Wilkins votes yes. Armstrong. Armstrong votes yes. Bentley. Bentley votes no. Cares. Cares votes no. DeBari. DeBari votes yes. Would any of you like to change your vote? Have 9 ayes, 2 nays, and 1 absent.
And that motion is approved as well. We have no additional committee reports this evening. We have no new business. Are there any additional items to be referred? Seeing none of those, miscellaneous communications, petitions, reports, and announcements. We do have administratively approved agreements for the period between the 19th of August and the 16th of September. Any questions or comments on those items? Ms. Cares?
Thank you for whoever prepared this document. I would ask the next time we see these that the columns have headers. I think I figured it all out, but I'll be, if this is a voting item, I'll be voting yes. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is this a voting item? I haven't seen it actually. No, it's not. Okay. So it's for your information? Okay. All right. With that, as always, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your service. We will be adjourned.